Hey folks, I'm Jeff, your tabletop technician here in the Dice Tower, and I got a trivia question for you. What do I have in common with legendary card builder Carol Shelby? We both played with Fjords, huh? Okay, let me ask you another question, a better one this time, I promise. What happens if you mix Carcassonne with the ancient Chinese game of Go? You probably get something better than what I'm going to show you, but this is still a pretty close second. This is Fjords by Grail Games and designed by, well, a man whose name I'd rather not butcher on the internet. Now, this is a new version... Now, this is a new version of Fjords, which first came out in 2000... You know what? I quit. Now, this is a new version of Fjords, which first came out in 2005 and was originally only a 2-player game. This version plays up to 4 and has some new pizzazz for players to experience, but the core concept of the game is the same. Fjords is basically an area control game where you first have to literally build the area. Fjords plays over 2 phases. The first is exploration, in which players will take turns placing hexagonal tiles to build a variable map. Players will have 4 tiles to choose from on their turn, with the total number of tiles available changing based on player count. Each tile must be played so that it touches at least 2 other tiles and, like Carcassonne, the geographical features of the tiles must line up appropriately until a colorful and unique map of mountains, plains, lakes, and streams stretches across the table. A quick sidebar, if I may. This isn't on the script, but I was just setting this map up for the purpose of the next shot, and just putting this puzzle together was quite a lot of fun, kind of therapeutic, if I'm honest, and this thing is beautiful. When you place a new tile, you can voluntarily place one of your longhouse tokens on it. Now, these have no purpose during the exploration phase of the game, but once the map is finished, the game turns to a new phase, settlement. In the settlement phase, players will send Vikings out to explore the map. Vikings must be placed on a tile adjacent to one of your longhouses or any of your Vikings already placed on a previous turn. By default, you can expand onto tiles adjacent to tiles you already control, and they can only expand along the green, plain areas of the map. So you couldn't cross this mountain range or this river. This means that, like Go, a player can create a wall between mountains or bodies of water, which automatically grant them control of the tiles inaccessible to other players at the end of the game. At the end of the game, the player with the most Vikings on the map, or the most tiles that they've blocked off access to from the other players, will win the game, with ties being broken by the player who went last in turn order. And that's it. Wait, that can't be it. This is only the first page of my script. Luckily, this 2022 version of Fjords includes some new goodies for players to experiment with. Players can play this 2-player with the original 2005 rules, in which that 4-tile draft option goes away, and tiles are simply drawn blindly from the bag. There's also the Epic variant, which is also just for 2 players, but uses all of the tiles in the box, building a massive map of this size on your table. This also requires additional longhouses and Vikings, but luckily this game comes with those extra components for the black and natural wood color player colors. But there's also one surprise left in this box. This version of Fjords introduces rune stones, which are essentially 7 individual expansions, each involving a separate rune stone. And since I've just scrolled into page 2 of the script here, let me go through each of them. The Strength rune is placed on the map when this particular tile is added to the map. At the end of the game, any player with a Viking adjacent to this stone will get 1 extra point. The Water rune works the same way, being added to the map with this tile, and every adjacent Viking at game's end earns its owner 1 extra point. There is a Friendship rune and a corresponding tile for each player, and a stone is added to each tile when it's placed. At the end of the game, these serve as an additional area control element. The player with the most Vikings adjacent to each Friendship rune will receive 2 points, with ties being, you guessed it, friendly. The next 4 runes are also 1 per player, but these start off the game in each player's supply and provide a one-time benefit when used. The Journey runes are used during settlement and allow players to spawn a new Viking up to 3 spaces away from another Viking or a longhouse, provided that the tiles in between all contain water. This would allow a player to cross over a river, unlike in the base game. The horse runes act the same as the journey runes, but would let a player cross over or travel along several mountain tiles instead. The wisdom runes let a player leapfrog over a vacant space in the map where no tile is present. In addition, the rune remains there so that another player cannot leap over the same space. Lastly, the home runes are placed during the exploration phase, and a longhouse is placed atop the stone. That player will get an extra point for each of their Vikings adjacent to that longhouse at the end of the game. The rulebook does offer some suggestions on how to introduce these runes over several games, but of course you can add as many or as few of these as you would desire. Now, the ones that add extra points for adjacency or additional area control were fine, nothing really too special, but it was those horse and journey runes that made this game a bit more interesting. See, as the map gets built, players are already looking for choke points to take advantage of, with the idea of quickly blocking off an area of the map to call their own in order to snag up swaths of endgame points with just a few moves. But these runes can negate that strategy because a player can just cross over that river or hop over that mountain and suddenly nowhere is safe. Now this game is very simple, very light, but not necessarily very fast. In fact, we found that at the 4-player count, the exploration phase when you're placing these tiles into the map can really start to drag on, especially as the map gets large, the number of tiles that easily fit out there has dwindled, and players are trying to explore in areas where they've already established those longhouses with the interest of quickly picking up points during the settlement phase. Now, in that settlement phase, which is a bit of an odd name since you've already placed these longhouses all over the map, the game goes fast. Very fast. So fast, in fact, that it often feels a bit anticlimactic at its completion. This is a game that you and 3 of your friends can easily spend upwards of 45 minutes to build this big, beautiful map on the table. And then 10 minutes later, it's covered with wooden Viking meeples and the game is over. And you're kind of sitting there going, hey, good job, Frank, you won. No big deal. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, of course, but I don't know. The two sides of this game just don't really feel equally weighted, and it's just kind of over before you know it. I do think this is a fun, light experience, maybe something to play after dinner with your friends. The type of game that you can certainly talk over while you're playing, and it's just sort of something that you're enjoying in the background. Oh, and before I forget, the art on these tiles from Beth Sobel is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the water is not only reflective, but conveys actual depth. It's really quite impressive. It definitely conveys a beautiful landscape that frankly I would not mind cruising across in a Fjord Mustang. Cheers. It's the horse rune. Get it?
That's a dad joke.
Well, yeah. Eh?